Hey, we are back. We are the Wrestling Boys. I am Logan.
I'm Goose.
And this last week has had some crazy news,
Oh my god.
most notably with Vincent Kennedy McMahon,
Oh,
as well as many of the predictions we made on our last episode just blowing up
blowing
in our
up
face.
in my face.
So,
Where do you want to start?
let's start with the predictions, because it's an absolute dumpster fire. We predicted all these things, and within just a few days, pretty much all of them
that night
messed
that
up.
night.
Yeah, because we recorded this on Friday, and
Prior to
just
the
later
SmackDown.
that day on SmackDown, Charlotte Flair returned. Not just to return, no, because WWE can't possibly use Charlotte Flair without making her champion.
Yep.
The sad sound of disappointment in WWE fans everywhere.
You know, and what's crazy is that she got a huge pop
Mhm.
when she came out, which is what I expected to happen when she would come out during the Royal Rumble.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting there thinking, you guys are early.
Mhm.
Why
It's like, why are you having her return
so early?
on SmackDown instead of just waiting a month to make it the biggest Rumble return?
Yeah. And then, of course, again, just like, and then it's like in any other thing that they do, they make the big return. Let's have a match tonight for the belt, okay? And then within not even a minute, 1, 2, 3, Charlotte wins, and it's like, you know, I mean, Ronda gets her in the armbar, and Charlotte just rolls her up and on the pin, gets shoulder man. 1, 2, 3, 14-time champion, Charlotte Flair is back. Oh my gosh, she's back.
And this whole her returning and immediately becoming champion has again brought into question whether or not she would have obtained the success she has if her surname was anything other than Flair. And Charlotte's talented. She's one of the best women's wrestlers in the world,
Yeah.
but I have to go on the side of she would not be as successful as she is had she not been Ric Flair's daughter.
Yeah.
Because what I think they're doing is they're going to say, oh, Ric Flair is a 16-time champion, so we got to make Charlotte a 17-time champion.
Yeah, at least something like that. It's just, you know, I mean.
So this makes me question.
Oh my God.
So you were watching wrestling back when Ric Flair was in his prime.
Yes.
So did his 16-time championship reign ever feel forced? Like, it didn't feel organic. It felt more like he was hand-picked to be champion all the time?
You know, it's hard to say. I mean, because if you look at look who he was wrestling back in the day. He was wrestling like Dusty Rhodes and Roddy
Harley
Piper.
Race.
You know, Harley Race. I mean, it was just like, these were, and all these guys were champions.
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't feel like it was really forced. I mean, it feels like, you know, back then it didn't feel like it was forced. You know, because I think I think Ric Flair, you know, he did have certain power, but I think he was smart enough to know, hey, I can't hold on to this belt forever. I have, you know, there are other guys that are worthy of this belt. I'm not, I mean, you know, and don't get me wrong, Ric Flair's got an ego the size of Montana.
Yeah.
And he's probably one of, if not the greatest wrestlers to ever work a microphone. I still remember the one crazy stunt he did in the ring where he took off his coat and bounced off the ropes and then gave his coat an elbow drop. I mean, I'm thinking, what are you stoned or something? But it was like, that's the kind of person Ric Flair was. And I think much of his success was early on. But you also have to realize, I think much of Ric Flair's championships are more or less like a combined championship, where it's like he not only was, I think he was NWA back. Not only was he an NWA champion, he was a world champion, WCW champion, WWE champion.
This wasn't 16-time WCW champion. This was just 16-time world champion combined with different promotions.
With different promotions, and it's just the aura of Ric Flair kind of followed him. I remember when he came on with the then WWF, and you had Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan standing in the ring together, and we're like, everybody's like, oh my God, the two greatest wrestlers of their era are, you know, I think at that time Hulk Hogan had held the title for the longest reign, and I think until since Bob Backlund, and Ric Flair was like a multi-time world champion, and so and these two guys were great workers, but again, there were also great egos, and I think they both knew that in order for these to work, was that they had to kind of like, okay, you have this one, I'll have this one, you know, and then we'll work out who holds the belt after we're all done, you know. And I think that's, you know, and it always came down to where Hogan won one time, and then maybe it wouldn't even be for several months, but they would wrestle again, and Flair would win the next time, and it was like, you know, and back, I mean, even with those egos, and you know, it's highly rumored, you know, that Hulk Hogan would, you know, if he didn't want to lose to a particular person, he would lobby that he wouldn't lose to a particular person. That's how we got the famous, that's how, you know, the famous Booker T match with Jeff Jarrett at that time, which, because, you know, there were some back dealings where I think Hulk didn't want to lose to Jeff Jarrett. And Jeff Jarrett just lied down on it, and Hogan grabs a mic and he says, "See, this is the reason, you know, this company's going downhill." And he covered him, took the belt, walked out of the arena with the belt, and it wasn't like Hulk Hogan was like, "Yeah, I want." It was like he just grabbed the belt and walked out, and then of course, the crazy man, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, the one that not. Why can I not remember? He was the one that helped the downfall of WCW.
Vince Russo?
Vince Russo. Old brain. Sometimes, sometimes in my brain, the little dude in my brain is like going through the filing cabinets, going, "What's his name? What's the dude's name? No, not him. No, not him. Great. Why can't I find that file?" You know, kind of like the way it is sometimes in the office. But Vince Russo comes out and he says, "Yeah, Hulk Hogan's on back. We're going to have another match tonight with Booker T, and then we'll crown a new champion." That's when Booker T became champion. And, you know, it was that, I think it was Bash at the Beach. It was a shit show. It was one of the worst pay-per-views of all time. A lot of people have said. Anyway, but it's just, I think there was, at that point in time, there was a thought process that was like, in order for us to put on a good show, we need to be, the egos had to be like, okay, you're going to win. I mean, that's just the way it was in that era. But yeah, I mean, when Charlotte came out, I was like, what the hell?
Spoiling a perfectly good chance at a return.
What the hell? I mean, you know, it was almost, it's almost like, hey, we fired off early. And then, of course, you know, right to the program, you know, let's do a match tonight. Oh, it was funny. It was Ronda's like, "You want your rematch at Royal Rumble, huh?" And Charlotte's like, "No, I want it right now, right tonight." And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen. And exactly what happened. It was like, you know, Charlotte pinned her, won the championship, and everybody's like, "Yeah!" And I'm like, "Oh, shit, what the
And
fuck?"
granted, I think it was time for Ronda to lose the championship.
I do too.
She's pretty much fallen out of favor with all WWE fans. Like after, I think, multiple pay-per-views. I think it was after Survivor Series, there was a trend on Twitter: "Fire Ronda Rousey." So most people are not upset with the fact Ronda lost. Most people were rooting for that.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that it immediately went back to Charlotte, not any of the other women's wrestlers
Yeah.
who aren't who weren't born with a silver spoon in hand.
Yeah, I think though what's interesting is that what I can see happening is quite possibly, cross my fingers as I make this prediction, but it almost feels like if Ronda's stepping out or stepping back, that they're going to give Shayna Baszler a shot.
I hope so.
That she wins the Royal Rumble and goes
get
on to compete against Charlotte.
That's something I would like to see.
I would pay to see that. Because Shayna Baszler is sorely
misused,
underutilized. Yeah, just, and I think Triple H really wants to put the strap on her.
It reminds me of what was happening with Drew McIntyre a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
where even though he returned, he was a huge star over in Impact and in the European wrestling scene. He returned and he was relegated to being Baron Corbin's or Shane Corbin's.
Shane McMahon's.
Yeah, Shane McMahon's one of his cronies. And then once he finally broke away from that, he became the Scottish Warrior, the Scottish Psychopath, and became a fan favorite and one of the best wrestlers on the roster. And I think that's what's going to happen with Shayna Baszler once she finally breaks free of being Ronda Rousey's sidekick. Shayna Baszler will finally be used to her full potential and will be a dominant champion.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe we might even get a rivalry between Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, which would be really good. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where to go from here. I mean, I know one of my other predictions. You see my shirt, AJ Styles.
Yeah,
What happened to AJ
sadly
Styles?
blew up in our face because I think it was the night before. I think it was a house show on Thursday. AJ Styles broke his ankle
Yeah, he's going to be out for
quite a while, and it says he's going to miss Royal Rumble.
may miss WrestleMania. I don't think he necessarily broke his ankle. He broke normally when you break your ankle, it's usually the leg bone's right near the ankle. So it's not the ankle itself, but it's the leg. But in all honesty, I mean, AJ Styles has been pretty healthy. So it's not a huge surprise that all of a sudden he would get hurt. It's just right now. I mean, when Royal Rumble's coming up, it's this has got to suck. I mean, because here's a guy who probably was going to get a great opportunity to possibly win the Royal Rumble, and go on to
Main event WrestleMania. Win, but sadly,
yeah,
the universe had other plans.
He's going to be out for a while. We wish him well. We hope he gets better. But until then, I still got pretty much most of my predictions. Look like they're ready. They're ready to go.
Aside from John Cena, who also returned on SmackDown.
Yeah,
and sadly led to a bunch of memes about Cena's bald spot, which
he'll probably go back to having that hair short again.
And as well as another big debut was Sasha Banks as Mercedes Moné over in New Japan.
Yeah,
debuted at Wrestle Kingdom.
So it looks like that Sasha Banks won't be coming
back anytime
soon. Don't blame her at all. I don't blame her at all. I think I would not be surprised if she feels like I'm just going to sit back and wait and see how this plays out. And I think it was a smart move because I think on our next segment we're going to talk about how that played out because who's back?
Vince McMahon. But before we end this segment, we just want to say our predictions on Big E and Cody Rhodes still stand.
Yep.
WWE didn't screw up either of their returns.
No. Thankfully.
So they still stand?
They still stand.
Prediction, Cody Rhodes will return and win the Royal Rumble.
Although I will say this really quick after what happened on SmackDown last week between Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn, I'm thinking more and more that Sami Zayn is going to win the Royal Rumble. Yeah, I mean just the fact
that for Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean we have our championship match for Royal Rumble, which is going to be Reigns and Owens. Which is I mean, if you haven't seen the other matches they put on, my God, they were great. And this ought to be really good too. But I kind of am looking at this with the way that he turned on Sami Zayn, and Sami Zayn looked like he's about ready to piss his pants. I would not be surprised if all of a sudden, you have Sami Zayn all of a sudden turn on both of them.
Mm-hmm.
If it becomes like a triple threat match, or if he comes in to supposedly interfere and he like haluva kicks both of them, to basically say, I'm my own man.
Mm-hmm.
I stood up for you. I was part of your crew. I was, and you're going to do this to me. And I would not be surprised if all of a sudden Sami Zayn came out, won the Royal Rumble, and was like, I'm going to see Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. You bet I'm going to, more after I saw it happen on SmackDown, I'm like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love Cody Rhodes. I mean, everybody's predicting he's coming back to win and headline WrestleMania. No, I don't see it now. That's just me. I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to go out on a limb. As good of a track record as I have right now, and I'm going to say Sami Zayn wins the Royal Rumble. And faces Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's not my pick, but I could see that happening, because that would make it for a great storyline.
We're gonna